Welcome back to Open Line tonight. If you're just joining us here on the half hour, I want to tell you we are trying things a little differently tonight. Our guests are joining us via Skype, and that is because, as you can guess, the coronavirus. We are taking special measures to social distance ourselves as we try to flatten the curve, just with the rest of you all too. So bear with us as we try new things, but I do want to remind you, this is Open Line. This is your chance to ask questions, to have a say. So the number, which is a new one, is on the bottom of the screen. Oh, Taylor just changed it back. 615-737-PLUS is the number to call. So that's 7587. 615-737-PLUS is the number. Go ahead and give us a call. We'll get those on the air. My guest tonight here for our second half hour now is Freddie O'Connell, Metro Councilman. Freddie, thank you for being with us.
Sure, glad to be here.
Coming from your home, I guess. Are you social distancing?
Yeah, I just heard today that the WHO has, the World Health Organization has actually updated to physical distancing, because I think there's some recognition that people are still very eager to do, anything social right now.
Yes.
So, yeah. But no, I appreciate the measures you all are taking, honestly.
Well, thank you very much. We're doing what we can where we can, that's for sure. I do want to jump right into our topic tonight and talk about the tornado, which in some ways seems like it happened a year ago, just because this month has been so crazy. But it has been mere weeks since a terrible tornado ripped through Germantown, your area, your district. Give us the snapshot of what it did.
It was, it was one of those crazy things. So from our family perspective, what we were like many other families in Nashville and Middle Tennessee, where I heard the tornado sirens, and basically we had, our youngest daughter had been woken up by the thunderstorms, right? Because there's a bad storm at the time too. And just as I had gotten her settled back down to bed, Whitney, my longtime girlfriend, burst in and was like, "We need to get downstairs now." The tornado sirens were going off. Her phone was blowing up like crazy. And, there have been a lot of reports of this. This is an interesting little sidebar. My phone didn't do anything. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We had exactly the same phone, exactly the same plan, and her phone was lighting up and giving her all the notifications, and mine just kind of, had I not heard the tornado sirens, I would not have necessarily known there was any kind of severe weather, because, at that point it was just a little after midnight. Yeah. So we hustled down to our interior closet downstairs. We actually had a house guest staying with us who had a 1-year-old, so we crammed a 2-year-old, an 8-year-old, and 3 adults into our closet with a cat. And at that point, we still, for a little bit, had power, and then all of a sudden the lights flickered and went out. And we then were without power for almost 5 days after that moment. And in the meantime, in the middle of that, I was checking on things, and in every indication, from the Nashville chapter, the National Weather Service, to the guys over at Nashville Severe Weather, you could get a sense from everything happening online that this was not a drill, right? That this was more than the tornado sirens going off. Because I think, a lot of Nashvillians have experienced the sensation of, okay, there's a tornado warning somewhere in Nashville and Davidson County, which means, yes, funnel cloud activity or some kind of seriousness enough to elevate from watch to warning. But this one clearly had a profile that was very different. Now, what was crazy was we could, from a closet here, a loud storm, but then, by 1 a.m. or so, the warning had expired for Davidson County. So we left the closet. Everybody went back upstairs. Somehow we got all the toddlers and infants and kids back to bed, and my phone died, and I went to bed. Right. Yeah. So, but I didn't really have a sense at that point. I had one person send me information about a building that might have been damaged in Germantown, but it wasn't really until the next morning, because my phone had died, so I wasn't really getting real-time updates anymore for the next little bit after the tornado had passed through. It wasn't until the next morning that I woke up, and once my phone came back on, I had plugged it into a computer, because I couldn't charge it at that point off an outlet, that I started to really get a sense that it had been devastating, right? That multiple buildings had been severely damaged. And, by later in the morning, it was with a sense of relief that, at least in District 19, we had no reports of serious injuries or casualties. And I'm still, among the things that are silver linings, minor miracles of that moment. Having seen what the tornado did to the neighborhoods of historic Buena Vista and the corridor along Jefferson Street and through Germantown, and I haven't spent as much time physically, frankly, since the tornado came through in the other harder hit areas like where John C. Toon Airport was, or East Nashville or Donaldson and Hermitage. I've really focused that first week afterward, I focused all of my volunteer energy in District 19, and then after that, we've kind of been in an ever-escalating set of response measures to coronavirus. But I walked through just blocks away from my house, right? I mean, 6 blocks south of where we are in Salem Town, the tornado ripped through basically the 1200 block and to some extent the 1100 and 1000 blocks of Germantown. And it was eerily reminiscent of the flood in the sense that you might be on the same block and had no damage. Further down the block, be a house that was just devastated, right? And so you can still see signs of that. In fact, I took our younger daughter on a wagon ride today just to get some air since it was just cloudy outside. And we walked down through the area, and you can see blue tarps up on a lot of stuff, but you can still sort of see that scar path that the tornado ripped through the community. And over in historic Buena Vista, just across Rosa L. Parks Boulevard, 2 really amazing community churches were also devastated. Mount Bethel, where we had actually that Sunday, we were supposed to rename a portion of Cheatham Place after one of their longtime pastors. We had a ceremony set up for it, and we had to cancel that, and they actually did a kind of touching ceremony called Worship in the Rebel that Sunday that I went to. Wow. And then Hopewell Baptist on Monroe Street, and these were both churches with these old brick buildings that the community had actually been looking in a couple of cases to try to preserve, and now a lot of damage to those structures. Same thing in Germantown, where they have one of the city's oldest historic preservation zoning overlays, and maybe not one of the oldest, but some of the oldest buildings in that overlay that was established well before I took office. And you can see why, right? They've got this amazing density of some buildings more than a century old, and now again, the building that housed Germantown Cleaners in the Lab, right on Jefferson Street, right across from the Bicentennial Mall corridor, that was a gorgeous building, 2-story building, and it looked as if it had been hit by a missile the next day, right? I mean, it was just like the power and force of the winds just scattered bricks as if they were Legos.
Yeah, I was out reporting on the streets of Germantown the morning afterwards, and it, just as you have described, and one side of the street was untouched, and where I was standing right across the street, buildings were collapsed. It's just something that until you see it in person, you really don't understand the magnitude of it. I do want to put a pause on our conversation real quick. We have LaToya on the phone, and Councilman O'Connell, if you can't hear her, I will relay the question. But LaToya, thank you for your patience. Go ahead with your question tonight.
So I was just wondering how, the stay-at-home situation works out when, every county is not taking account to do that, because you're moving out of, people are moving outside of Davidson County into other counties. So, I mean, if it's not across the board, I don't see how that works. Sure.
That's a great question, LaToya. I'm going to go ahead and hang up on you so you can listen to your TV to get the answer. We're going to jump into the coronavirus conversation real quick to answer this. Just to bring our viewers up to the speed, Mayor Cooper has issued a safer at home order asking everybody but essential workers to just stay at home for about the next 2 weeks. She brings up a great question, especially with Nashville, such a hub that so many other counties feed into.
Right. So so people understand we basically have confronted twin challenges just back to back, nearly simultaneously. We really went straight from, the first case of coronavirus confirmed in Nashville and Davidson County was March 8th, right? And if you think about that, it is, to your point, it feels like a year ago. Yeah. And in fact, just been 2 weeks, and we're now up, over the 150 mark. I think now over 175 was confirmed in Nashville. And so we went basically from this outpouring of volunteers, right? Because that next weekend after the tornado, we had hundreds of volunteers pouring into Germantown, Historic Buena Vista. I know Lee Chapel, the Northwest Y, various places in East Nashville, Donaldson, Hermitage, and people going all the way out to Putnam County, some of them from Nashville, to deal with that. And then today we heard the troubling news that a regular volunteer for Hands on Nashville at one of their volunteer sites has tested positive for coronavirus, right? And so this is part of the reason for that safer at home order. But LaToya's question is good for a couple of reasons, right? Because one of the lasting effects of the tornado, in particular in Germantown, we lost a handful of homes, really not nearly as many single-family homes destroyed in historic Buena Vista or Germantown as the impact of displacement from multiple large apartment buildings in Germantown, right? So now you have hundreds of people displaced from their home, and so what does safer at home mean to someone, for instance, who's temporarily housed in an extended stay America, right? And now all of a sudden we've got kind of these economic shocks happening. But the question is an important one, and it's why I think so many of us were actually calling on Governor Lee to take more decisive and stronger action in terms of something like a safer at home measure from the state. Now, finally, that same day that Mayor Cooper ratcheted up the orders with the Metro Public Health Department to move to an essential business only operating environment, right? Previously we had been looking at a closure of bars, right, eliminating dine-in restaurants and fitness facilities and those kinds of things, and those are consistent with what is now statewide with Governor Lee. But to LaToya's question, it's a tough one, right? Especially if not all Nashville employers are today was the first day of the impact of the safer at home order went into effect at midnight. And so if any Nashville employers didn't get the word and people are coming in from ring counties, I mean, I can tell you this, we enjoyed an opportunity of going out to get some open space outside of Nashville on Sunday with our family when the weather was good enough to get out and go for a hike. Because we're trying to be in spaces where there are not a lot of people, where there are not a lot of crowds. But, as you go out into these outlying counties, you could pass steakhouses and family restaurants where the parking lots were full and the restaurants were full, right? And this is, as we've seen the case count in Tennessee spike up above 600 now, right? So there is community spread out there, and it is something we should about. But I think part of the issue for what LaToya is addressing is anybody who is in Nashville obeying the concept of safer at home and doing physical distancing, and all the employers who have either closed or are working from home, they're taking important steps themselves, because you will not, our family by and large has not been within any kind of physical distance of anybody in over a week, right? And so that's important.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. LaToya, thank you for your question tonight. We're going to come right back after this break. If you have a question, now is the time to sneak it in. The number's on the screen, 615-737+. Stay with us.